Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. I'm just sitting here. I might as well go live, right? I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Happy Friday Eve. Today is August 7th, 2025. Oh, we have new screens and everything now. This is interesting. So, how was your day? It is Thursday. How was your day, Bianca? And everybody else? I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Hey, Monty. How was your day? I hope everybody's had a wonderful Friday Eve. I'm so glad it's Friday. Tomorrow, it seems like this week went by so slow. So slow. Oh my God, I've missed you guys. I feel like I haven't been live in like forever. Good. I'm glad your day was great. Did you like win the lottery or anything? Anything that great? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? And before we get started, just hey, Pokey, hello, Hurt. Before we get started, everything is alleged and our opinion. Dun dun dun. Heck no, no lottery for you either. I guess you got to try to win, huh? What do you guys think of this new time thing that everybody has been talking about? I've been wanting to see, hoping somebody, because I'm not gonna do it. That's too much for me. I want to see it like all plugged in together. You know what I mean? Like how everything fits together now. Like I get that the time is off, and I get how they got the math and did all that stuff with the whole time being off. I just want to see it fit in with all the other views and everything else that's going on. Hey, Mark and Betty, with your cute little paw prints. How's your day today? It is Friday Eve. Thank you. My mommy actually got it for me. I thought it was super cool. It's fun. I like it. I was actually, speaking of mics, I was looking up the different mics, like the one that Harsh Reality uses, and I think Lana has the same one, and they're like $1,000. I'm like, what? Sorry, guys, I am not spending $1,000 on a mic. Cheers, Mark and Betty. I love this community. I really do. It's funny because I was looking at some comments on some of my more recent just pre-recorded videos and actually got like a lot of hate comments, and it seems to me that a lot of the, I guess we can call them guilters. I hate to put a like label on everybody, but it seems like our community, the other people call us crazy and whatnots, but we're kind to everybody. Even if you disagree, we're still kind to everybody. And it seems like a lot of the people that have the opposite view as us isn't very nice to people. I understand that they might be upset that I have a different viewpoint, or, our community in a whole has a different viewpoint, but they're so rude about it. Bianca is here. We do love Bianca. I was a couple minutes early today, but we'll go ahead and get started anyways. Bianca, I agree. You are kind to everybody, and it has gotten worse. It seems like it's really bad lately. Like, you can post a comment, that's fine, and you can disagree, that's fine, but I don't understand why you have to call people not you, but you know what I'm saying, like the other people that might disagree, why you have to say like horrible thing. I hope bad things happen to you, and like, goodness. some of them are funny to me because it's like they're telling me that I can't have an opinion, but they can have an opinion not only about me as a person, even though they don't know me, or the channel or the community, but we're not supposed to be able to have an opinion. Only they can have an opinion. It's so crazy. Yeah, so crazy. I'm like, I don't even want that bad juju. I just see them and delete them, see them and delete them. I don't like the negativity. Just because you disagree doesn't mean you have to be mean. I mean, there's no reason to be mean. Anyways, I'm going to get started. Now, I have a video. I'm just letting you guys know that in the video, it is hard to hear some of it. And it's not me, it's just how the video is. I'm not sure if I can get this any closer. No, because it's going to go off the screen. I guess that's fine. It's more about what they're saying, but I just want to let you guys know that I will, not to react. You know, sometimes it's hard to not react to something you feel so passionate about, but it's like you have to teach yourself. You have to teach yourself, and after you don't react to something so many times, it becomes like second nature to not react to it and then not be bothered by it either. It's a learning process, but I've been trying to teach myself that for a very, very long time. The older I get, the easier it gets because I just don't care. It is, yep, it's easier to just be kind. I don't get it either. So I have a video here just letting you guys know it is hard to hear. If you can't hear it, it's pretty short. If you can't hear it, I'm going to explain it after it plays anyways. I find this extremely interesting. Keep in mind, everything that happens in this video is known by the police force. They know that this happened. And this was quite a bit before Brian Koberger and the crime itself and everything. You might have seen this if you subscribe or watch Tommy Jude over at Once Upon a Crime Time. He did play this the other day. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. Just keep in mind, it is hard to hear.
Okay, so you were the person that, okay.
Yeah.
Did anyone else hear or see anything?
I heard them run up the stairs, and I don't really remember anyone coming down. I do remember somebody like running up the stairs, and I didn't know if it was her running to the bathroom or if it was them coming home, because I was just laying in my bed on like watching TV. And she came into my room and she was like, "Did you hear me screaming?" I was like, "No." She was like, "I was like, why?" She was
well, Joe,
first, yes. I thought that
would you be able to? Okay.
But
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go with you downstairs so you can show me exactly where things happen. Can you get info from the other three people?
I think they'll want to be walking around the outside.
Sounds good. So before we go.
Not sure why it's doing that. I just played this like 10 times earlier today, and it did not do this at all.
Go down, in case there's things that this person touched that no one else has touched yet. I'd like you to be holding your own hand so you don't start touching things. Does that
I don't
make
think that they
sense?
touched anything,
Okay.
but I think their back like touched my closet, and I really could not tell you if it was a guy or a girl.
Oh, okay.
When I first looked at them, I thought it was a girl, and then I only looked at them for a second, and then
So which room is yours?
this one
Okay.
is mine. And oh, did you guys open that up?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't
So
remember
we
that
wanted
happening.
to look at every place that a person could be. So
I was sleeping right here, and I'm a really heavy sleeper, but I heard the door open.
Thank you,
Oh, okay.
Monty.
And I saw someone,
We
like I saw
appreciate
the
you.
ski mask first, and I rolled over, And I was like, what the heck? And then
I just want to point it out that we just got our first super sticker ever. Thank you so much, Monty. It really, really means a lot.
literally were like this.
Okay.
Me with the
So,
and then
is this what the lighting was like at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is exactly what it would have been.
Can you describe the knife for me?
It looked like kind of a smaller knife.
Okay.
Smaller knife. It wasn't like a huge like anything. It kind of looked like just like a smaller steak knife.
Okay.
And so yeah, I just rolled over and.
Okay, so they pretty much already just said kind of what was happening anyways. I'm going to explain it. So that was a female in Pullman. Now this was in October 10th of 2021. Now this girl called the police. She called 911 because and she is one of 4 females that live in this house. So she has 3 female roommates. Thanks, Pokey. And she called 911 because a man broke into her house wearing all black with a ski mask on, carrying a knife. Now, this girl like heard something, and so she went to go check, and she said, at first I thought it was a girl. She said, basically, I didn't stand around to find out. I started kicking them in the stomach and they took off, but dropped the knife. Now, the knife was a steak knife, like a smaller steak knife. Now, this happened in October of 2021, though. So this was pretty much a year before the crime in Moscow happened. I think that's wild. And the thing is the police knew about this. Like, we're just finding this out, but the police knew about this the entire time. Now, we know of several different calls to the police of somebody trying to break in. Ava Woods, just a week prior to the crime, had somebody fiddling with her lock at 1 a.m. trying to break in her house. So having somebody try, actually break into a home of 4 females with a knife, dressed in all black with a black ski mask on, a year before this crime happened is absolutely wild. That is basically almost a year before Brian Koberger even moved to Washington. So it couldn't possibly be Brian Koberger. And in my opinion, the man that was trying to get into Ava Woods' house a week before, in my opinion, is also not Brian Koberger. And I think Ava Woods was starting to realize that. And she was kind of like, if Brian didn't ping in this area on that day, that means that it's somebody else. Did you see it today? Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure it was Tommy Jude of Once Upon a Crime Time. He played this video. And I think that's terrifying. Now, in this video at the very beginning, it was actually not redacted, and you could see the females that called 911. And the 2 females I saw looked to both be blonde as well. I'm not sure if that matters, but I mean, you have a house with 4 females in it, and the crime happened in a home with several females in it, obviously. Oh, Nancy Grace did it. I didn't even see hers. And I think that's absolutely wild. That, I don't know, that's, to me, they knew about this call. They knew about these police calls of people, somebody trying to break into different people's homes before Brian Koberger even moved there, or at times where Brian Koberger was known to not be in the area. So the fact that they even they didn't follow up on this, they didn't do anything about this call, but come there, clear the scene and check it out, and okay, bye. That was basically it. How come mainstream media isn't putting this out there? Saying, hey, there was this break-in of pretty much the exact same thing, And this was a year before Brian Koberger even moved there. Now, my question is that I found interesting was she said it was a steak knife and started beating this dude up, and he dropped the steak knife. Now, I'm wondering, because he dropped the steak knife, did he then go purchase a larger, better knife and ended up with the K-bar and committed the crime that we all know of as, obviously the IDAHO4? Because he was carrying a steak knife and saw how easy it was to drop it, and also got a sheath, but then ended up dropping that as well. Very reasonable questions, I think, to ask. It's pretty fitting. I know nobody watches Nancy Grace. So I'm questioning why haven't we heard of this? Why haven't we heard of this on mainstream media? Why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative of being Brian Koberger. I mean, I would think the general public, especially in that area, would want to know that there was somebody in their community that was breaking into homes wearing all black with a ski mask, carrying a knife, just like they claimed it to be Brian Koberger, and he was doing the same thing. Well, you absolutely know there's at least one other person doing that. One other person doing the same thing. If not that being the only person. That could be the only perpetrator. Who knows? It's terrifying to me that the news will only share the things that fit their narrative and completely disregard news that doesn't fit their narrative, but it's news that the general public, especially in that area, should know because it could make them possibly unsafe. Oh, they don't care about that. They just want to make sure their narrative is followed, right? It's insane to me. So I want to get into talking about the time difference thing that's been, the big thing in this investigation, YouTube investigation is what I'm going to call it, the YouTube investigation on IDAHO4. I was just saying how I hope somebody makes a video that shows kind of start to finish how the time change that we know of now fits. But to me, it fits with the text messages. I actually saw Birdie looking at this last night, but I wanted to look at and talk about not just the text messages and calls between Bethany and Dylan, but what was happening before that, supposedly when the perpetrators were in the house. Yep, 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 26 seconds. You know what's strange about that time? What's strange about that time is when the crime happened and the police were called and the police officers got there, and I'm going to specifically talk about Payne, allegedly, in my opinion. Payne got there. Now, in his report, the way he documented it and what he said, it basically is saying that when he got to the crime, he stood outside. And guess how long he stood outside for? 1 hour and 7 minutes. Is that not so strange? Considering now the time difference we see is 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 26 seconds. We couldn't figure out the seconds that he was standing outside. But according to him, his report says he was standing outside for 1 hour and 7 minutes. Weird. Anyways, yeah, isn't that strange? Now, I don't even believe that at all. These reports, what they did was they wrote reports, way later. So, 3 months later, they're writing reports on what happened, excuse me, in November. Well, what they're trying to do is write reports to match, obviously, with their cover up and their lies and everything else they're doing in this case, in the investigation. But yeah, Idaho is so weird. But what's happening is it's not adding up with each other, and it's not making sense with the other stuff they're saying. I was actually earlier today plugging stuff into ChatGPT just to mess with it and see, as I've never really used ChatGPT like that. So I know that like my history would be cleared and it couldn't give me an answer based off of previous questions because I've never asked it anything except for I think once. So what it was telling me basically was it's very inconsistent, and that I plugged in a bunch of different documents in there to see if it could dig through the documents and tell me any information. And ChatGPT basically came back and was like, one report of one officer is inconsistent with the report of another officer. Like they're contradicting each other in their reports and they don't really realize they're doing it, which I found interesting. Anyways, so I want to talk about, Birdie touched on this a little bit last night, and it is mind blowing. So when we now have this time change and we see that those people are running from 1122 King Road in the body cam, in the background of the body cam footage of the Banfield stop, when they're running away, it is 4:19 in the morning. And so we see here in the, let me see if I can make it bigger. In the text messages and call logs between Dylan and Bethany, we see here at 4:19 and 7 seconds, Bethany calls Dylan. Now, Dylan's obviously on the second floor and Bethany's on the first floor. And for them, I believe, to be running in the area they're running, to me, it shows that at least one, if not all of them, came out the front door. So to me, I think this call from Bethany to Dylan is like, who the heck just ran out the front door? Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? What did you see? What did you hear? Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm going to call the other roommates. Click. 23-second phone call. I think Bethany heard and saw people running from the front, and that's why she's calling Dylan instead of calling Maddie back. She's calling Dylan instead, because Dylan's probably the next closest person to the front. Now, that would be when they were leaving or had just left. What I find strange is that means Dylan would be creating a new contact in her phone while the perpetrators were in there. So you are trying to tell me that she's hearing a ping pong table or a beer pong table being pushed around, cups flying everywhere, people screaming, people being unalive. There was obviously some sort of fight or commotion in the living room. There was one upstairs. There's one in the living room. There's one in Xana's room. People screaming, the dog barking, all this commotion going on, a big boom, a flash of light. All this stuff is going on. And she's creating a new contact in her phone? What? That is what is weird to me. Now, I don't know how long the perpetrators were in there. To me, it's way longer than 7 or 8 minutes. I think this would take a decent amount of time. So I think they would be in there at 3:51. And I think they were in there before that. And everybody's phones are silent. And to me, that's because of what is happening and people being unalived way before 4 something. I think it took some time, and I think that there was obviously more than one perpetrator, and I do think the time fits now with them running from the 1122 in the back of the Banfield body-worn camera footage. But what's strange is Dylan creating a contact when they would be inside. I also had somebody comment about, why would Dylan's footprint be in the red fluid if she was supposedly sleeping, laying down on her phone? Yes, that's what I think. Woman doing false memories. Welcome, welcome. You know what's strange about that too? Woman doing false memories. Did you happen to see the white Elantra that was crashed and abandoned in Eugene, Oregon? And they said, oh, that car doesn't have anything to do with this case. Do you know it has an identical handprint on the window of that car as well? If anything else, that's just wild. Like, I don't believe in coincidences. It's almost like a calling card, like a, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Oh, really, Jeff? You were so when you find something that's cool online, Jeff says, I was looking at a cool photography website recently. It's called Magmod. I put their website info into my phone as a new contact, and he does this often. So basically, when he's saying when he gets online and finds something that he likes, he wants to keep it in some way to, remember what he was looking at and everything else to refer back to it in the future. So he creates a contact with the information. I understand that, how that would be beneficial for you to revert back to when you want to check it out again or whatever. I just personally, in my opinion, don't see Dylan doing that at 3:51 in the morning. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not. That's just the thing. I don't know why what contact would she be adding? And it should say that if they hooked her phone up to Cellbrite, it would give them that information. What contact was being made and saved in her phone? A homeless guy was living in the wrecked Elantra in Oregon. I did not know that. Why do I not know that? Yeah, that's what's strange, right? Is she's making this contact while all of this, she calls it commotion. It's more than commotion. I mean, lives are being taken here, fights where people are being made to look unrecognizable. People are screaming and hands being torn apart, literally. And you're creating a contact? Stop. Hello, hello. It's sunny there in the Twin Cities, smoky skies. You laid on the beach, lucky. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see you. And actually, Schwa 2018 had a really good comment, and I actually lost it. I can't find it right now, but I did want to talk about it. She made a comment touching on all of the things from the very beginning of the case that was done incorrectly. And even when I plugged it into Chat GPT, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, guys. When I plugged it into Chat GPT, it said the same thing, that basically the chain of custody of everything was done so poorly that when they got there, they should immediately have started to put on PPE, their gloves, their booties, their, everything else before going into the crime scene. Obviously, the first person would go in, clear the scene, or two people would go in, clear the scene, and see what they have. But after that, every other person who went in there should have had on booties, masks, hairnets, gloves, everything to not damage any part of the scene. And that didn't happen. It wasn't till even a little bit later they started even taking notes of who was coming in and who was leaving. And the crazy thing about that is ChatGPT even saw within those notes they were inconsistent from each other's. Like, they were writing times and the times that people came in and the times that people exited, but it was contradictory to another person who was taking the same notes, another officer. They should have immediately, started taking pictures or, cordoning off the big crime scene areas from maybe the smaller ones that they won't need to use. Everything. It was not done. Everything from the very beginning of this case was done so poorly, but FBI was in town. I mean, they should have had this done correctly. It's not like they've never ever had an unaliving in the town. They should know what to do. And it was not done. It was literally ruined from the very beginning. Their investigation wasn't an investigation. It was sloppy, and it was just a bunch of stuff put together from the moment they got there. So sloppy. I don't know how they were able to get away with it either. I find it interesting that they immediately told Pullman officers that they don't need their help. Now, in my opinion, that's because they knew they were going to have to possibly make this narrative go a certain way instead of it being truthful. And that's why they didn't want Pullman's help. He says, I might be a little sloppy too if you ask me to do something I haven't done in 7 years. I mean, yeah, it's possible. And they're human. I get that. I just think with an unaliving like that, especially where you have 4 and it's a big deal and, news cameras are starting to show up and everything, you would make sure that everybody had booties on, everybody had gloves on, even just the basics right there. And that didn't happen. I feel like that would kind of be number one. I mean, it's possible that they're human. I'm not disagreeing at all with you, Jeff. I mean, I think you know that. I'm open-minded to anybody that has a difference of opinion. It's possible that they kind of just didn't know what to do. But in turn, it made it look sloppy. It could have been slop. It could have been they just didn't know what to do. Yeah, and that's when your supervisor comes in and teaches you and gives you those training hours. I agree. Diddy, Claire Bear. Hey, Claire Bear. I don't know if I said hi to you, Fizzy. Hi, Fizzy. Thank you, Fizzy. I am sorry, but if you are waiting months to write a report on this magnitude of a case, you do not get a pass. Thank you. I just think that them writing the report so much later, it just proves to me that they did that because they had to cross their I's and dot their T's, cross their T's and dot their I's in the investigation, right? They had to make sure everybody's information fit together and they had to get it all aligned how they needed it and how they needed it to look before they wrote their reports. And then their reports would then show everything they just had to, make up or alter or whatever they did. And that's why it was 3 months later. So yeah. I'm curious, Jeff. I know that you think that your opinion is that Brian Kohlberger is the guy. And I'm curious if you think that it was just him or if there was another person. That's something I would ask Brian Kohlberger myself if I could. Another thing I find interesting, so I was mentioning how Payne, according to his report, apparently stood outside for an hour and 7 minutes before he went inside to see the interior of the house and what had happened. So I touched on that, but what I also find interesting about him is in his report, it also says when he's on the third floor looking at the bed and the two victims in the single bed, after whoever's with him, it might be Dollinger, it might be somebody else, but they walk away and he makes it a point to say, I stood there for a little while before exiting the room. Why? Why are you standing in there by yourself? And I know, Jeff, you might say to gather the information, to take a mental picture of what's going on and what could have possibly happened, and maybe try and replay a scene in his head to maybe see where he needs to investigate next, and where he needs to get other leads from, blah blah blah. But this is also basically when he found the sheath as well. Now, how come he says it was completely visible from the doorway, but how come no other officer that came in there saw the sheath at all? So he apparently sees this sheath. The other officer leaves and he just stands there for what? He doesn't say for how long. He stands there for a little bit and leaves. Why? Was it to put the sheath there? How come no other officer saw the sheath? And also, I haven't seen anything as of yet. I also haven't gone through all the documents yet, so it might be in there. But there's no talk about, so he sees this sheath. You would think in the same report, it would be what he did with the sheath, collecting the sheath. I haven't seen anything yet about how it was collected, pictures taken, gloves on, collected, tagged, everything. I haven't seen anything on that at all about the sheath. This is the most important piece of evidence that they have. And there's no report, no nothing on how it was collected. Like, even down to their interviews, they interview the roommates and they don't ask really any valuable questions. They don't follow up on any leads according to themselves. Like, what is going on here? Yeah. He says, hi, Amanda. Hi, Donna. Now, what I find interesting as well is Payne says he can see the sheath from the doorway, but all the other officers that had gone in there before him didn't see it. Now, also in the report, I'm not sure whose report it is, but it says that Maddie's, trigger warning, Maddie's body is basically like leaning into Kaylee's body. So I'm picturing not very much room in between the two. Like, where was this sheath actually at? How visible was it? And none of that's documented. And that's why I think partly why I think the very beginning of this investigation was botched from the start. They're not documenting the most important things they need to document. I also realized in a report, and I might have said this before, but I'm not sure, so I want to touch on it one more time. We know Kaylee got a new car. So that would have been a new car in the parking lot that weekend as well. What I find strange is Kaylee's mom said she bought the car all by herself, but it's not registered to her. And it's not registered to anybody with the last name that starts with a G either. So it's not registered to a Gonçalves at all. So she didn't get it by herself. But who got it for her? Who's a co-signer on this car? Because it's not registered in her name. That's not said at all. Not that it's really anybody's business, honestly, but I'm just curious if her mom said she got it all by herself. Did Kaylee just tell her she got it all by herself? Or did her mom know and just didn't want to get into the tiny details that somebody co-signed for it, and that's how she got the vehicle? Hey, True Crime X. Hello, hello. The initials of the owner of Kaylee's car is JS. Very interesting, actually. I don't think that's Showalter. I really don't. But could it be? What would be the... Yeah, and it does say in the report that it's JS. So, I mean, my first thought is no, it couldn't be Showalter. But who is it then? Oh, allegedly it's her new boyfriend or... Dang, so she just... Wait, I thought her new roommate was Jordan, which was a female. So Jordan, hey, don't be hating. Jordan, who's a female, said at the like celebration of life thing in her speech about Kaylee, she said they had planned to move to Texas together. So I thought it was Jordan. So did Jordan sign as a co-signer for Kaylee's Range Rover? I'm very interested in that. Another question I had for you guys actually is, when have you ever seen a case that is completed? You know, the guilters basically got what they wanted. The defendant pled guilty and is going to jail for the rest of their life or in prison for the rest of their life. When have you ever seen that happen? And then everybody still months later continues to talk about the case like it's still an ongoing trial, like it's still that big, even to guilters. I don't think I've ever seen this ever. I don't think I've ever seen people continue to talk about a case, and it's not just the people digging in to try and find evidence in the contrary to try and prove Bryan Kohberger innocent. It's everybody. It's guilters, it's mainstream media, it's us, it's everybody. The only few, in my mind, I can only think right now of a couple of cases that were continued to be talked about, which might be like the Gabby Petito or even Casey Anthony, but I think that was talked about because she was found not guilty and should have been, so people were outraged. But I've never seen a case like this. Yeah, and the president talking about it. This is just weird. There's so much in this case that are just so strange to me, and simply talking about it still is strange to me. What I also find very odd about this is all of the guilters, got what they wanted or got what they thought should happen, which is Bryan Kohberger pleading guilty. Bryan Kohberger pleading guilty and going to prison for the rest of his life. But then all of the guilters and mainstream media are so angry with the prosecutor. Like, what? You got exactly what you wanted. You got a plea deal of him pleading guilty, and you are severely angry at the prosecution to the point where you're making videos about it, about how angry you are. The family, Steve Gonsalves is on the news every other day, so angry with the prosecution. His son, Steve Gonsalves' speech outside of the court after the sentencing, his speech was talking about how horrible Bill Thompson is at his job. I don't understand that. Like, he basically got you what you wanted. He got a guilty plea, basically. How come you guys are so mad at him? I can understand why us who think the narrative is a bunch of lies, how we would be angry at him or contradict what he says or kind of go after him in our videos. But for the people that are on the same side as him to say he's terrible is interesting to me, on top of continuing to talk about this case. It's just so wild. Sorry, guys. Hello, Top. Hey, Christy. Hi, Pumpkin. Hello, Ray. So also reading, I think actually Lana touched on this today, but I was looking at this actually yesterday and found the same thing was interesting. Kaylee is the only person that didn't have defensive wounds. And I find that a little interesting, or at least they're not reported on, I guess I should say. It's not in the autopsy report made by Vargas. I don't really see it in anything else either. You know, it describes some of Xana's defensive wounds, that Maddie had them on her hands. She had defensive wounds, but Kaylee did not, which is, or it's just not reported or talked about, which is odd because she's the one who fought so hard. How come hers aren't reported? Yes, Texas Ranger. They absolutely, law enforcement should have been more transparent, and that would have eliminated a lot of questions. I personally think that they weren't transparent because they had to get together in their minds and physically and report wise everything they knew, but also they needed to figure out what they needed to change, what they needed to alter. You know, this couldn't be in Idaho on Idaho. They called the university first. The university was first to know. Why? It's an off-campus house. The university didn't need to know first, but because they run everything in this town and the surrounding area, probably, they had to be called first. We didn't even get a press conference right off the bat, which should have been done days prior than what Chief Fry did it. And he didn't really end up saying much in the press conference either. And then what he did say, everything he did say was contradicted by his employees later anyways. So I don't think they could have been now, if this was an honest investigation, it could have been very transparent. It would have just had a normal flow to it. But nothing in this case has a normal flow to it because it's altered. If you arrested somebody and you were so confident that you're charging this person and going after the death penalty, you're so confident, you shouldn't have had to alter anything. There shouldn't have been any lies, nothing. It should have just had a normal flow to it, and it didn't. They had to alter things. They had to lie. They had to make it fit, in which it doesn't at all. I mean, we know now that the car they say speeding away, that's they say is Brian Koberger's car, we know now is 100% their own vehicle. They even did a test on their own vehicle at night to see what color it looked like. And then they're like, oh crap. Molly said she saw our vehicle, not a suspect vehicle. That was our vehicle. But they still went with that being Brian Koberger's vehicle. Why? I mean, I know why. They had to cover it up. But who are they covering up for? That's what I want to know. Right. Why did they have to do IGG first? I mean, I find it interesting that they have reports at WSU is out looking for a white Hyundai Elantra. In the report, it's before the bolo was even put out. So how did you know to look for a white Hyundai Elantra? Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's got something to do with the university. Actually, yesterday I was digging into some, how should I put this? Some clubs or groups in the area. And they have pictures on Facebook. I was just seeing if I could match any faces, and I hadn't gotten through a bunch of it, but didn't see anything as of yet. But I'm still going to keep digging. Covering for frats and Idaho University. I mean, obviously, the boys that are in the background of the Banfield footage that are seen at 419, now that we know the time change, running from 1122 King Road in the background of the Banfield footage are frat guys. We know that, right? I mean, it's not that we know it in a sense that we can see them and compare them and say that, this is so and so at this frat. We can't do that, but I think it's a pretty good speculation that they are from a frat. Which to me says exactly why Bethany and Dylan said, at first I thought it was a prank, because the frats do pranks on the sorority girls. They thought it was a prank because of how many people were in there and their ages. I mean, I think that they saw at least one or two of them. That's just my opinion. I do think that. And I think that's what her call to Dylan was for 23 seconds at 419, was them leaving and Bethany calling Dylan like, who the hell just ran out the front door? Right. If they prank with screaming like you're getting on a live, they need to rethink themselves. I agree. But I think it's safe to say that they did think it was a prank, possibly because of who was in there, right? And the frats are playing pranks on the sororities, so they figured or saw that it was frat guys, and that's why they thought it was a prank. Sure was. He sure was. I'm not so sure that there isn't rugs involved with some of the players in this case, and they are either like a distributor for one of the rug leader people that were taken down in the FBI rug ring takedown. I'm not so sure that the people at the college, at the university, aren't pushing rugs around the college for some of these big players that were taken down in the rug ring by the FBI. I think it's very, very possible. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. So yes, I agree, you guys. The screaming and calling out, and you think that you can't possibly think that's a prank. You just can't. I don't know how they think that's a prank. What do you guys think of this time change? Now that I asked this when we first started, but there was only a couple people in here. So I'm really curious what you guys think of this time change. Is it does it make things fit better in your mind? Or is it confusing to you? Do you think it doesn't fit? For me, I'll let you guys answer and we'll talk about it. For me, it fits with the Banfield boys, the stop, and the guys running in the background. That fits for the time of 4:19 rather than 3:19 or 3:12 or whatever it was. That fits more for me. And it fits with the camera switching over to daylight color mode for me as well. But I would love to see somebody do a video where they put together all of the time, like in chronological order. Now, with the new time change, I want to see what's going on over here and what's going on over here now that the time is different. Yeah, I started to watch that too as well today. I'm not sure where you saw it. I was watching, I think, Christine Nevada. I was trying to watch hers. I was also working at the time, so I couldn't have my full attention on it. But there does seem to be a lot going on in there. Okay. Steve G did a new interview on, I think it was on News Nation, but I think it was on News Nation, but it was with a guy. It's fairly short, and he didn't really say much other than how much he doesn't like the prosecution. Surprise, surprise. I agree, Christina. I agree. There's been a lot of things that he's said that that suggest there's at least one more perpetrator. But I think they do see what we see. I do. And I think they watch the videos of the people digging and proving that it could possibly not be Brian Kohlberger, or at least not alone. I do think they watch those videos, and I do think, excuse me, I do think they do agree with some of it as well. I mean, they ask a lot of the same questions that we ask. Where's the other weapon? What was the other weapon? Who was with you? Did you do this alone? If not, how many people were with you? They have a lot of the same questions. If the prosecution stood up and said, we don't have a motive, there's no motive, there's no sexual anything attached to this crime, we couldn't put him at the scene ever, we couldn't put him with the victims ever, yeah, but he's guilty, right? No, I think the Gonsalves, hi Thomas, I think the Gonsalves have the same questions we do. Dogbone, I love that. That's a perfect name. Hi, Miss Shante. Dogbone. Look, Jeff. People that aren't even you are getting blocked because they think it's you. Dogbone, sorry that happened to you. We do love Tommy Jude, though. Once Upon a Crime Time. You won't be blocked over here, even if you do have a difference of opinion. Jeff H is over here, the person they accused you of being, and he has a difference of opinion than we have, and he's more than welcome because he's respectful. As long as you're kind and respectful, I don't care if you agree or disagree. Right, guys? Our chat won't kick anybody out who's just having a conversation or a debate. You don't have to be mean to people, right? I think it's strange that Dylan said she basically looked the person in the eye. She said they made eye contact, whoever was in her house and herself made eye contact with each other. But when shown Brian Koberger, she couldn't connect them. She couldn't say that, yes, that was him. The thing is Brian Koberger has very distinct eyes and nose and facial features, especially his eyes. What I also find strange is when you see in the picture, the newest picture we've seen of him, where he is taken to the barracks and he's looking up at the camera. He's dressed in navy blue and his hair's kind of messy and he's handcuffed behind his back. You can barely see his eyebrows. And it's not that it's sunny or it's summer out and the sun has now lightened his eyebrows. This is December 29th. This is the middle of winter. And you can barely see his eyebrows. So I don't necessarily think you can get away with saying that he has bushy eyebrows. And I don't think Dylan said that at all. It was first stated by law enforcement about the bushy eyebrows. And then she later kind of ran with that, I guess, in a sense, but never outright said she saw bushy eyebrows. Ah, that's funny. She did get GoFundMe money. She absolutely profited off of the death of her friends that she really only knew for like 3 months, right? They had only lived there for 3 months. Pav does rock. Hi, Zeus. Yes, Texas Ranger. Are you talking about when he was first arrested in December in shorts? Yes. You really can barely, it could be the lighting, but you can barely see his eyebrows in there either. They look closer to when he was in court and it looked like he had a tan. Remember? That's what color his hair looked like in the December arrest picture as well. So what are you talking about? The cops had the body cam that shows the knife sheath. That's what I heard in the beginning. They didn't notice it till reviewing the video. Ah, interesting. So they didn't notice it until reviewing. They didn't notice the knife sheath until reviewing the video. I'm confused. I'm really confused. Sorry. We do, Elise. We do. We know that victims' parents have involvement with rugs. And we also know for a fact, basically, well, we didn't see it with our own eyes, but we know from statements of people that were there that Xana and Ethan were using rugs as well. So for the toxicology to say they only had alcohol in their system was a lie. It was bullcrap. How could they um how could they say that they didn't know the sheath was there until they reviewed the body cam? I mean, they would have had to collect the sheath at the scene. So how did I guess that's why I'm confused. Sorry. So Texas Ranger says, why would this guy plea out to 4 counts of capital unaliving and 1 count of burglary if he's innocent? That makes no sense. And I understand why people are hung up on that. And I can only say from experience of being accused of a crime I did not commit, there are several different reasons why somebody might do that. In one of my recent videos, I said the number. Thank you, Monty. I bet Olivia has profit more than anyone. I bet she has. Do you think oh yeah, the interviews and stuff like that. Do you think she's made more than Dylan in the GoFundMe? Probably, right? Because they have their own GoFundMe as well. So what I was saying was being accused of a crime you didn't commit. Now, for the record, I do want to just make sure that you know, I don't know if Brian Koberger did this or not. I'm not saying he's 1,000% innocent. What I'm saying is the evidence they've given us don't add up for me. So I don't think he did do it. I don't think he didn't do it. I'm more so just saying, really on the evidence and the fact that it's very difficult for them to put him at this crime other than the DNA on the knife sheath. However, that was still less than a secondary transfer amount of DNA. If people just hear DNA, they think guilty automatically, but the amount of DNA matters. It really does. And in this case, it wasn't enough DNA for it to be a primary transfer. With that being said, there's 375 people that have been exonerated after confessing to a crime they didn't commit. It's not like it's just him. There are tons and tons of people that commit to or plead guilty or confess to crimes that they didn't commit. I being one of them. However, it wasn't a big case. It was something stupid and small, but I got tired of fighting. I don't know about him. I can't speak for him, but I do know people get tired of fighting. Also, we can tell with the investigation that somebody higher is involved. Somebody is pulling the strings and running this investigation, and I think they have to do with the university. We also know that his family was threatened, so I could imagine he's gotten many threats, or possibly even, hey, if you take the fall for this crime, we'll take care of you and your family for the rest of your life, type of thing. We don't know. That could have been said. I can't tell you why he would have pled guilty. I know reasons that I eventually gave up and stopped fighting because it's traumatizing to be accused of something you didn't do and have nobody in your corner and people coming at you doing and saying things that aren't true at you. Like, it's difficult to deal with. It is. It's traumatic. But I can't tell you why he did. I don't know. It could be a variety of reasons. Or it could also be that he did it. I don't know. I'm just speaking on the fact that the evidence does not tell me Brian Koberger committed this crime, or at least not alone. Even the DNA doesn't tell me he committed this crime, just because the amount matters to me, and it's not enough to be that Brian Koberger actually touched the sheath himself. The amount of DNA is way less than that. Yep. You are very right, Mary Marilyn. Brian's car was nowhere near the crime scene. It was the cop car and Molly's car. Yep. I agree that it was absolutely the cop's car. It even showed in the Banfield footage, when they get closer to the cop's vehicle, you can see in a certain light that it looks tan. And that's why Molly said it was a tan vehicle, because even in the Banfield footage, it looks tan. Now, I'm curious, did you guys see many, many moons ago, you can see in the back seat of the officer's vehicle? Does anybody remember what was in the back seat of the vehicle? I'm just curious if that object that was in the back seat of the officer's undercover vehicle, if that had any sort of rounded edge or stripes in it at all. Just curious. Mary Marilyn, so I actually touched on this in a live maybe last week. Mary Marilyn says, why did Molly say there was only one person in the cop car? And I can actually tell you why. So in the body worn camera of Rosendahl, who's in the passenger seat, it actually shows him with his seat leaned all the way back, and he looks like he's laying down. And somebody who, with them just passing by or is passing by them and just, looking over real quick and looking at somebody as they pass by, it would absolutely look like there was only one person in that vehicle. Rosendahl, it's shown in his body worn camera inside the undercover car that he was laying all the way down. Yeah. Brian Koberger would have. Yeah, Christina. Actually, I thought you were in that live with us. Yeah, I actually showed a video of Rosendahl laying all the way back in the seat in his own body worn camera. It shows that he's laying all the way back in the seat. You can see the passenger side window and some of the windshield, and he's laying completely all the way back to make it appear like there's only one person in the vehicle. He's hiding. Rosie, why are you hiding? Why are you hiding? Christina, silly. Yeah, I don't know the reason why he was hiding, but he was absolutely leaned all the way back and hiding while they're making those trips. Those trips they say was Brian Koberger's car. That's when he is laying back in the passenger seat. Good to see you, Amanda. Thanks for joining. I'm actually going to hop off soon here in a minute, too. Bronxy's got to get OUT to the PARK. At the time, Mary Marilyn, at the time in the body worn camera footage that I saw, the dome light wasn't on specifically at that time. And I don't think I watched the rest of it to know if it got turned on. But it would make sense that the dome light would be turned on at some point, especially after leaving the Banfield stop. They look stuff up and enter stuff on their little computer and whatever as they're driving. I often, at least in my area, see undercovers with their dome light on. When it's darker out, they could be pulled over or even just driving, looking something up or whatever. I've seen it. I don't think it's impossible. Oh, actually, Christina, you taught me something new. There's only 3 towers in Moscow. I actually thought there was only 2. See how much we learn as a group? Yeah, I thought there was only 2 towers. Learn something new every day. I guess there was 3. To me, it doesn't change. Hi, Shanna. That's a good point. In Molly's statement, she said she saw, a person with dark hair in the bathroom window. Or did she say bathroom window or some window? Would she say 3rd floor window or something like that? How would she know the layout of the house? She did carry a dog with her. Everyone said it was a dog. To me, it looked like a cat, but I know she also said it was a dog. I don't know. Maybe it was to throw off Murphy. I'm not sure if it was a touch screen or one of those bigger computer screens. I have to look again. I want to actually review that footage again. I haven't reviewed it in a while, like gone all the way through, because I want to see what that object is in the back seat of the undercover car. Oh, that's right, Fizzy. You're right. Yep, I did know that. You're right. Speaking of being in court, with the whole time change thing now, and I'm sure you guys have heard this, Ann Taylor saying, don't be fooled with this 7 minutes not meaning anything, basically saying this 7 minutes is important. I've heard that, Trey, that one of the towers might be a stingray. I've also heard that there was some sort of box in the front that might be a stingray. I saw that on a video too. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off so I can get Bronxy to the PARK. I really just felt like I hadn't seen you guys in so long on a live, so I wanted to make sure and come on today. Probably be live again. What's today? I might come on tomorrow, if not Saturday. So I will see you guys soon. But I am going to hop off here so I can get Bronxy to the PARK. I just wanted to thank every single person for being here. I appreciate all of you. Make sure and hit the like button on the way out if you could be so kind. Other than that, I'm going to hop off, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next one. Do something nice for yourself. Be kind, but more importantly, be kind for your dog. Bye, Ren. I didn't say hi to you yet, so bye. Where's the button for what? Where's the button for what? Oh, just so you guys know, I tried to set up like membership things yesterday and it won't let me. So I'm going to have to call them tomorrow. It might need some time to like figure itself out. I'm not sure why it wouldn't let me. So tomorrow, if it won't let me, then I'm going to go ahead and just give them a call. So I will let you guys know if or when I can set up memberships if you're interested. My plan with memberships just for right now is if I can get them set up, then I'd like to do like, behind the scenes type stuff. I do want to do giveaways. I want to do, what else did I want to do? I can't remember. I had plans for it, like giveaways and behind the scenes and all sorts of stuff I want to do with it. So, oh, thank you, Top. Oh, no problem. I promise on the next one. Promised on the next one, Top. Christina, you're so funny. I know it was a typo, but that made me laugh. Okay, Bronx is yelling at me. I'm going to hop off. Love you guys. Have a good night.